What is up, my friends? Myself and David Lynch are back to have a little chat around all things Liverpool. Obviously, the international break is now coming to an end, and the Reds travel to St Mary's to take on Southampton this Sunday. And I guess, David, that's where we're going to start. Would you expect the boys to pick up the good form that we had before this international break and keep it going at St Mary's? I mean, I don't want to be too arrogant about it, but surely we should be looking for the 3 points.
Yeah, you would certainly hope so. I mean, Southampton just quite frankly haven't been very good this season, have they? And I mean, they put on a decent show against Man City not that long ago, only got beat 1-0 there. So, maybe that's in the back of your mind. And Liverpool can't take it lightly and they won't take it lightly. But it's on paper is one of their easier fixtures. I mean, it's top against bottom. So, and Southampton playing away as well, it kind of gives you a chance. They want a lot of possession. They give you chances to nick the ball high up the pitch, which Liverpool are so good at. And they give you transition moments, which again, Liverpool probably the best team in the league at the moment. So, on paper, it looks a good matchup for Liverpool. And really, you'd like to think the only thing that could kind of undermine them is any sort of fatigue from the international break. So I think they've got and complacency as well. So if they guard against those two things, then you'd like to think it's a comfortable win. And also, I would say as well, again, without wishing to sound too arrogant about it, there haven't been too many unbelievably comfortable wins for Liverpool this season. So it'd be kind of nice to get one of those, boost the goal difference a little bit. And show as well that this side is not just very good at defending, but can also pile on the goals when it needs to. So maybe this is an opportunity to do that. But as I say, they will not be approaching it in that way and taking it lightly by any means.
It feels like a bit of a rarity, this, doesn't it? Coming back after an international break for a Sunday game. Usually we fear the half 12 Saturday kickoff after the international break, but
Oh,
this
they'll
one I
find a
almost
way
feel
of
like
putting
they've got nothing
Liverpool
to
in that
complain about.
still, I imagine. There'll be a late change to the schedule and Liverpool will be kicking off at 12:30 on Saturday. I'm still convinced of that.
I wouldn't, you know what? Nothing would surprise me at this point. We do have the derby coming up at a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday, so. But I think, look, they're only really a problem, aren't they? If you're away in Europe, which of course they've now moved that rule as per the Villa game that was scheduled, I think, 12:30 initially by TNT. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it anyway, mate. How about you, that Saturday night kickoff?
Yeah, very much so. And the only thing I would worry about with these is kind of what it says to away fans and the travel they've got to undertake and whether they can get back. But for me, it's such a bigger event, so much better to watch, not just for the fans in the ground, but the people at home as well. Much better to be involved in, generally better atmospheres, and therefore a better game. So, if that was something that fans who attend matches could get on board with, is replacing 12:30 with an 8 p.m. kickoff, I'd be all over that because even for someone who had to work it, I enjoyed it a lot more. But it was better to cover, better to write about. So yeah, I'd love that change to happen. But as I said, I'd love that to be in consultation with the away supporters.
I do love a nighttime winter kickoff. There's just something special about it. The air around Anfield's different. Everybody's all in their warm clothes, woolly hats. It hits different. I was in Liverpool on Friday, and I have to say, down by the Albert Dock and that, the city looks lovely at Christmas time, man, with the lights up and the whole Albert Dock. It looks beautiful. So yeah, I'm all for nighttime kickoffs in winter, David, because I just love the cold air. I love going to Anfield. I love walking. It never gets old walking up the steps and seeing the lights. The floodlights just hit you as you're coming up towards, then the pitch at eye level. It's just magic. It is just magic. And I'm like you. I wish there'd be a few more Saturday night games.
And I know what you mean actually about the winter ones as well being a bit different because every time I walk up to the ground when I'm there and it just kind of feels it feels like there's a little bit of magic, and whether it's a Champions League game or not, you feel that sort of sense of excitement around it. And I always do think it just helps with the kind of the later kickoffs as well. People have always had a few more pints, and it is as basic as that can sometimes really up the atmosphere. So they are always better the evening kickoffs, and I do always look forward to them.
So we've done the niceties. Now I guess we got to get stuck into the contract talk, David. So I want to start with Trent because Team Talk put something out the other day to suggest that the club are now confident that Trent will reject Real Madrid and sign on at Liverpool. So of course that's a great thing to read, but we've read both sides of this. We've read some positive, we've read some negative. But truth is, Trent's always said he wants to deal with this behind closed doors privately. So I got to ask you, have you heard anything in any direction around Trent's future?
No, sorry about that. Unfortunately, not. The thing I would say about this is that people will like to, as you say, kind of read the positive reports. They won't enjoy reading the negative reports. But the only thing I can say is that genuinely nobody knows anything about this. And I'm happy to admit that as a journalist. Sometimes some stories are impossible to get close to. Everybody at Liverpool is keeping the cards close to the chest. Everybody on Trent's side is doing the same, and you're hearing very few whispers or murmurs about it around the city, around anyone I speak to who's close to the club. So it's just one of those situations where nobody really knows, and that therefore I would always say take the negative stories with a huge pinch of salt. Do exactly the same for the positive ones. At the moment, the one thing I can guarantee, they're in talks. It's happening, that they're trying to get there, trying to reach an agreement. And everybody on all sides, as far as I'm aware, is working towards that. No consideration of other aspects or Real Madrid or anything like that. That's what we do know. And as difficult as it is, and as used to we are in modern football with a lot of these contract negotiations or any situations around transfers being kind of played out completely in public, that's not happening with Trent. And I don't think it's happening with Salah. It's not happening with Virgil either. Very, very little is getting out about those situations. And we do just kind of, it's very frustrating, but just kind of have to sit and wait for news. But, like I say, the huge positive to hang on is that the talks are ongoing. And as far as Liverpool are aware, and as far as I'm aware on their side, they haven't been told that Trent wants to go to Real Madrid, and that would happen. There would be a complete break in talks, and that information, quite frankly, would be out there, because it would be so much easier for someone like me to get someone to tell me if that was the situation that had been reached. But there's nothing like that going on at the moment, and we've just got to show a little patience. But it's frustrating and kind of concerning, I guess, for supporters in terms of the will he, won't he. But we just got to kind of hang in there, I guess.
I think as supporters, most of us feel that this decision is Trent's to make. Obviously, numbers have to match for the club and all that other stuff, but it feels like it's Trent saying categorically, I want to stay, or I'd like another chapter. But if we move on to Mohamed Salah and Virgil, I feel the conversation's a little bit different, David. So obviously, Joyce put out something to say that there has of yet been no breakthrough in negotiations with Mo. He mentioned that the club are trying to allocate resources correctly. And I've got to be honest with you, as a fan, and with my own chat as well, people feel like that particular line sticks in the throat a little bit, the allocation of resources. It's not that the club haven't got them, it's that they want to allocate them correctly. I don't know, as a fan, what more Mo could do to be deserving of those resources. Now, of course, I also don't know what Mo and Remy Abbas may be asking for from the club, but it feels like there is a real appetite for him to stay. Fans want him to stay. He is certainly playing the game very well and coming across that he wants to stay. On this one, what do you think may be causing the delay? And we've spoken, and you've been honest about this before, and said that Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes will have to look to 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, and make sure that we don't have a Mesut Ozil situation, we don't have an Alexis Sanchez situation where these players fall off a cliff. So far, Mo has shown that's unlikely at this particular moment. So what do you think is the big sticking point here, if you were to guess from the outside?
Yeah, so it's something I wrote about on Substack this week, actually, if people want to check that out, is that kind of, it's an easy, educated guess to say that Liverpool's biggest driver really in these talks will be around contract length and avoiding that Ozil situation, as you say. Like I said, I've consistently said, I think 3 years feels risky. A 2 year would probably protect Liverpool, particularly with that Saudi interest still being there. They've got a bit of a get out there. And 2 years isn't too long. It doesn't feel like they're completely tied if things start to go a bit pear-shaped, even though I don't think they will, because he is in fantastic shape and flying at the moment. So I think that's the main driver from Liverpool's perspective, is contract length and what they're willing to go to. From Salah's perspective, I mean, again, we just don't know on that side whether is he asking for a pay bump in any way. I think that would be very hard to push to because he's already so highly paid. I mean, and that is an influential factor as well, because say he's coming and asking for, actually, I want to go up to 450 grand a week because I'm still scoring all these goals and want to go in line with inflation or whatever. And I don't think Liverpool can stretch to that. But what we do know is that he's clearly making the point that he wants to stay. So he's clearly also willing to compromise, and that's why I sort of feel that they will find a middle ground on this. It took them a while with his last contract. It was difficult and confrontational at times. But there's hope when you've got a player who wants to compromise in a club in Liverpool who absolutely will not want to have to go out and try and replace a player of this calibre. for next season at the very least. So both sides have got reasons that are going to force them into compromise, and that is always helpful in terms of reaching an agreement. So hopefully they can. And in terms of that allocation of resources line, by the way, I think that really underlines and emphasises the fact that this isn't FSG's decision. It's nothing to do with them. People will I keep seeing comments about, oh, the skinflints or the tight, if he, but it's not about that. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes are being given the power to make these decisions. This is the allocated budget. Salah's 350 grand a week is within that, by the way. So the big decision will be what do you want to give him? What do you want to give Trent? What do you want to give Virgil? The money is there. It's just about the decisions they make around that.
I got to push back a little bit on the Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes thing, because I totally understand where you're coming from. They're empowered to do their job. Absolutely. I think most of us would agree with that. But at the same time, that's kind of a cop-out to some extent, because they are the owners, and I guarantee you they wouldn't empower Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards to spend 200 million in a transfer window if they so wanted to. So it feels like, again, this isn't at you, David, but it feels like giving them a get out of jail free card doesn't wash with fans at this point. You've seen on the cop, pay the man, is what the fans are saying. You see on social media, pay the man, is what the fans are saying. It is an embarrassment to the club at this point that we're 6 weeks out from a January transfer window and there's no Mohamed Salah contract, no Virgil contract, no Trent contract. You can surely see as a fan yourself why we're getting tetchy, why we're getting worried about this situation, because Pep Guardiola's contract was done like that. 2 weeks, done, here you are, new Pep. And that's what 115 charges hanging over their head. So I think I can understand why people, and particularly myself, I have to put my hands up, look to the owners, because, a fish rots from the head. They are the owners of the football club. They have empowered these people to make the decisions. But as I said, that empowerment, I think that doesn't work both ways. They won't empower them to spend money that the owners don't want to spend.
No, but equally, I wouldn't want them to be empowered to spend 450 grand a week on Mo Salah's contract anyway for a starting point. I think there should be a limit there about what they go to. So,
and by the way, David, sorry, I'm fully in agreement with you on no pay rise for Mo. I'm fully with you on that. I think 350 grand a week. The way I look at that, David, is he's past his peak. He's reached the top of the mountain, and it is a slow, and we hope it's a very slow decline. But I think most of us are really with you on that, and the owners on that. I don't see a pay rise being the way forward. I think most of us are in agreement on that.
So this is it. So FSG, there's absolutely no question in my mind have empowered them to make a decision within this current framework of what his salary is. There's just no question of that for me. And I just don't think, they've consistently showed. I mean, in fact, it was kind of Mike Gordon who made the push for Salah's last contract. And that was one of the interesting details, I thought, in Paul Joyce's piece. So, that shows you again, actually, maybe they are a little bit more flexible, the owners themselves, than Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes might be about this situation. My only argument is, it's all about where the anger's directed. And I think it's such an easy thing to go, oh, Michael Edwards is a genius. He never gets a decision wrong. And then when Mo Salah leaves on a free and goes and scores goals elsewhere, go, oh, well, that must have been because it was FSG's fault, because they are convenient kind of villains in the piece. I just don't. I think you've got to kind of share the blame out at times, and I don't just think it's the owners. And back to your point, actually, in terms of the fact that they're in this situation again, the blame will go back to the owners. But actually, what the owners did in the situation that I think has kind of done Liverpool in a little bit here is they empowered Jurgen Klopp so much in the transfer market that Liverpool ended up having Julian Ward for literally a season as sporting director, but then 6 months into that was heading for the exit because Jurgen had too much power. And then Jurgen gets to appoint Jörg Schmadtke who's effectively his mate to run transfer things and run the sporting aspect of the club, and therefore the contracts just go by because then obviously Schmadtke doesn't end up dealing with those, and Jurgen doesn't feel he can give assurances over when he's going to stay. So actually, that's partly of Jurgen Klopp's problems of Jurgen Klopp's making. But again, I probably wouldn't hear very much about blaming him around that because, for obvious reasons, he's an absolute legend of the club and totally understand that. So my thing is, I think there's loads to criticise FSG for, but I sometimes think they get criticised around the wrong things. And if Mo Salah leaves, I can assure you it will be a decision that's been taken by Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes on that allocation of resources, as Joycey mentioned, rather than FSG or John Henry ringing up and saying there's no way we can stretch to this or that. Liverpool have got a hefty budget. And it's all about how they choose to use that and how the sporting director chooses to use that, and that will have as much an influence. And also, in terms of transfers as well, the kind of sanctioning a £200 million window, I think they actually already did that, didn't they, in the window when Naby Keita, Fabinho came. They spent an unbelievable amount that season. So
We have
again,
had
like I say, I would just say
about
there's
50.
loads and loads to criticise FSG on, but I think some of the sporting decisions that get made that is so far removed from their sphere of influence, I don't think they should get blamed for. And I do think there are question marks over other people about how the contract situation got to where it is and how it might be dealt with. And people who should be judged around that, and he shouldn't really be. I don't think John Henry is at the top of that list personally.
So just to rewind back to the Jurgen Klopp part there for a second, I think it was Paul Joyce who was talking about when Mike Gordon stepped in to extend Mohamed Salah the last time. Very worrying to hear Anthony's name was being mentioned, David. I mean, I'm very grateful to Mike Gordon for stepping in there. I very much am. So well done on that one, because proved to be the right decision. But you are right. Certainly another narrative that's been formed amongst our chat on these streams have been, wow, some of these decisions from Jurgen would have been questionable, to say the least, around transfers. So I think that is certainly a valid point that you've raised.
Yeah, and this is it. The thing is with Jurgen is that he was an absolutely genius manager for Liverpool. As I say, a true legend. Don't want to do him down in any aspect of that whatsoever. But even geniuses are capable of making wrong decisions at times. And obviously, going for Anthony, I think even if you think he would have been 25% better at Liverpool, it still wouldn't have been anywhere near good enough, even if Liverpool had maybe changed how they played a little bit. So, he was quite keen on Mario Götze, wasn't he? And kind of got pushed down a different line in terms of ending up with Mane there. Julian Brandt is a famous example of a player he really liked, but got Mo Salah instead, and that worked out quite well. So I don't think he was infallible in terms of making decisions around transfers, and I don't think he should be infallible in terms of what happened in terms of that sporting director role as well. I think in the latter part of his reign, I thought that was kind of a little small blot on his copybook there that's interesting. As I say, there's a few people to blame around how certain situations have unfolded, and I just don't think it's ever going to be a situation you can put all on one person. I think a few things have gone wrong at Liverpool recently, and that's why they found themselves in a few tricky situations. But we also probably shouldn't overstate how those are affecting things, by the way, because they are top of the Premier League and top of the Champions League, so they're not doing too badly at the moment as well.
I will certainly agree with you on that, mate. I will certainly agree with you on that. It's much better to have these conversations from a position of strength, looking down the table, than looking up. Here, absolutely. So I want to move on to Virgil for a second. Fair play to Ronald Koeman, by the way. Give him a little breather. Very much appreciate that. We've been very lucky, haven't we, in this international break? Mo didn't go away. Trent had the hamstring injury, and Virgil got sent back early. So I'm sure that Arne Slot's rubbing his hands together about the possibility of having a fresh Mohamed Salah for this really busy festive period coming up. And on Virgil's contract, again, it feels like similar situation to Mo. It'll be the club's decision most likely, because it feels like both those guys certainly want to stay. I can't see a world, David, where they don't get Virgil done. It just seems it has to be done.
Yeah, I agree. Again, just he seems so desperate to stay. He's on a reasonable-ish wage compared to Mo Salah. He's the captain. He's still playing unbelievably well. I just think you'd like to think that was a pretty straightforward one to get done, and I really do hope that they can do that. And as you say, in terms of the international break and him getting a break, I do actually kind of wonder whether some of Liverpool's budget is being spent on convincing these international managers to let the players be rested, because it's unbelievable how things are going for Liverpool with that at the moment. The Egypt manager with Salah, obviously the Netherlands as well. I think Gakpo and Gravenberch didn't even start the game yesterday either for the Netherlands. So Ronald Koeman, the famous Liverpool supporter, if his Christmas tree is anything to go by,
he loves a red Christmas tree, doesn't he? He loves a red Christmas tree.
Done them a massive solid there, and so that's really helpful with Virgil as well. But I agree with you on the contract as well. I'm hoping that's one we can get resolved as arguably maybe the most straightforward one of the three.
So I'm a fan who's led by emotion a lot of the time, and it comes out, but I'm getting excited around Omar Marmoush, David. I can't lie, I'm getting excited, and I want to know, am I setting myself up for failure here, or is he somebody that the club are certainly keeping tabs on?
I struggle to see them signing him without someone leaving. But that isn't to say.
Agreed.
So in January, for example, I just can't. I can't see him signing for Liverpool in January. They would have seven frontline forward options there who would all expect minutes. And I just don't see how you manage that situation, or even say to Marmoush, we need you. This is our plan for you. I just don't think there's a possibility to do that. In terms of whether that moves into anything in the summer, I think we can quite clearly see from his side he would like to make the move. I think a lot of this story is being pushed from that side. And obviously there's a lot to like about him profile-wise that Liverpool would maybe be keen on. But again, it would be all about where is Darwin Núñez up to come the summer? Where is Jota? Can you get him on the pitch consistently? Do Liverpool feel that they need to swap one of those for someone like Marmoush? And that would be the big decision. But I think, when you're scoring goals at that rate in the Bundesliga and you're clearly, playing as one of the best players in the world at the moment, you have to say, with the numbers he's putting up. If you've got someone doing that, then no doubt clubs like Liverpool are watching, particularly because he'd be gettable for a kind of quite reasonable fee by all accounts as well. So I've no doubts kind of keeping an eye on, but long way from that to that turning into anything concrete, to be honest.
So a couple of things on that. One, it's always lovely to see a player wanting that move, by the way. It's always nice to see, because there's been so much stuff coming out of Germany to say, if he did move to the Premier League, he'd have eyes for Liverpool. He'd love to eventually succeed Mo in the Liverpool folklore and Liverpool story. But also, I agree with you 100% around the amount of forwards we currently have. There's no space at the minute. And every conversation we've had on our channel as well with people, everybody comes back to that same thing. We've got 6, and then you've got young Jayden Danns building his way up as well. And congratulations to him on that Adidas deal. He looks good sitting at that table with the Adidas logo behind him, and here's to many years with the 3 stripes for him. But I have to say, around all of this, it does feel like maybe we are thinking along the lines of we could see a forward move on in the summer, because you've touched on Diogo Jota's availability. I don't think anybody questions whether he's good enough to play for Liverpool. He is. There's no doubt about that. But if you can miss 20 games a season, that's not really what Arne Slot is going to be looking for with regards to robustness going through the season, because you want players who are available to rotate in. Left side is an example. What a headache for the manager in Diaz and Gakpo. And I'm sure he'd love another headache on the right side or through the centre. So I agree with you, but I also think that maybe it is time to start looking at that forward line and thinking, are we getting everything that we can availability-wise from them?
Yeah, I think with Jota, in fact, with the squad as a whole, actually, what I would say was you want to kind of give them a fresh start from Arne Slot coming in, because there were certain question marks that arose around kind of preparation and training methods and the intensity of the style of football Liverpool were playing under Jurgen Klopp towards the end, and the amount of injuries that tended to cause, because Liverpool's injury record has just been disastrous, really, for the last couple of years or so. You kind of give everyone a fresh start under Arne Slot. And the thing is, Jota was kind of doing well. For someone who picks up a lot of muscle injuries, which tend to be his problem generally, he was kind of doing okay up until the point that someone landed on him. Now, you almost don't want to count that as part of it, because you just think that is one of those things that can just happen. He puts himself about, and if a big lad lands on you, it's probably going to hurt. It's probably going to break your rib. It's going to cause you some issues. So, yeah, I don't kind of want to almost judge that injury within him, within this kind of context, really. What I almost want to say to make a true judgment of Diogo Jota is what happens to him when he comes back in the next week or so and the end of the season. And if he can get through that period without the sort of muscle injuries that he's tended to pick up, do similarly to Canate is doing at the moment in terms of his availability, and just has that little bit more luck where people don't land on him, then we get a clearer idea then of kind of what he's going to be like under Arne Slot and how available he's going to be. So I think it is a crucial kind of period for him between now and the end of the season in terms of showing he is going to be available, and that was just an unlucky injury.
It also feels like Italy are very much missing Federico Chiesa, because every day there was another nonsensical loan story or to rescue him from his Liverpool nightmare. Yeah, every time I see him, he's smiling. He certainly doesn't look like a man who's unhappy, and Arne Slot's been very upfront and honest about a mini pre-season to get him where he needs to be. Seen picture from today at training, by the way, looking, again, very happy to be here. Again, we can say there's no thought process or indication whatsoever that situation's one that everybody's unhappy with.
Yeah, absolutely no chance of him moving on in January. It's been an unfortunate start, and I think it was kind of set in stone really by the fact he did miss pre-season, and obviously then you move to the Premier League, which is a touch more intense. You're probably going to struggle with that physical level, and he's just playing catch up now, which it's frustrating. I want to see more of him. Sure, everyone else does, but Liverpool are still big on him. They've made this signing for the long term, and they want to get him right, and still think he can make an impact this season. So. He's still going through that individual program, and it's as soon as he feels kind of right and he can step back up into training, that will happen. So hopefully that's really very soon. Not entirely sure where he's up to in terms of joining team training yet. I'm not quite sure he's there. But if he can at some point this week and then work his way back and be around for this really important run of games that's coming up, that would be fantastic. And there's still a lot of time left this season for him to make an impact, and you can absolutely guarantee he will be there till the very end of the season to do that. No chance of a return to Italy in January.
Good. Here. So on top of that, I just wanted to check in on Harvey Elliott and Alisson Becker. Obviously, we'd seen both return to training somewhat. Elliott, obviously, a little bit before Ali, I think. So when do you think we can expect those two available for selection?
I think there's a good chance he could be in the squad at Southampton. I mean, Harvey's been training with the under-21s for a while now. So, to come back into the first team picture as he has, means he's stepping even closer, and it'll just be about how many numbers Liverpool have available for that Southampton game, whether he makes it or not. If it's a bit of a squeeze to get him in the squad, they probably won't risk it, and they'll just give him an extra week to kind of get, or an extra few days before Real Madrid to get him involved. But I think there's a really very, very good chance he'll be involved at Southampton, to be honest, because if they can get a few minutes in him, that would be really helpful. And similarly with Alisson, I think he should be in contention for Southampton again. Because it's a muscle injury, they will be on the side of caution with that. So if there's any slight doubt, they'll just give him that extra game off, let Kelleher come in and play. But if they're absolutely happy with where they've got him, there's every chance we see him just thrown straight into the starting lineup. And he's a goalkeeper. It's not necessarily about kind of that fitness and sharpness, really. He shouldn't have lost too much since the last international break, and training should get him ready. So would not be shocked at all to see Alisson in the starting lineup at Southampton and Harvey Elliott in the squad.
Interesting. I do feel a little bit for my countryman there, Caoimhín Kelleher. I mean, he's been incredible, hasn't he, since he's come in?
Yeah, he's phenomenal. The fact is that I can't really remember very much me and you talking about Alisson Becker being out at all in this period, which, and we're talking about the best goalkeeper in the world there. That shows you how well Kelleher has been playing. He's a phenomenal talent. He's shown it again, and thankfully there's still opportunities to come for him in the League Cup and maybe even in the FA Cup as well this season. So he will get games, which is good because he absolutely deserves them. He's been massive for Liverpool in this period.
Well, we've seen your influence on the media already. You threw up about Chelsea potentially looking at him, and then, there it is, out there in the media. Now, Fabrizio said they're not, but they could do a lot worse, and people have spoken to as well would say he would certainly be a step up from Robert Sanchez.
Yeah, I did kind of wonder, because I've been banging that drum for a little while, whether that I've just kind of seeded that in people's minds and those reports came out. But apparently it's not actually happening, and Chelsea aren't actually interested. But as you say, I think he's much, much better than Robert Sanchez. And okay, if not Chelsea, then a club of that level should be looking at him, because he's certainly good enough. And maybe even not a Premier League club, maybe a club abroad will be looking for a goalkeeper of that level, and there's a good move for him there. But I really do hope there is a decent move out there for him this summer, because he just fully deserves it. And clubs who need a goalkeeper who don't look at him are absolutely mad as far as I'm concerned.
And one last thing before I let you go. Obviously, we're now about 6 weeks away from the January transfer window. I think all eyes would be on the midfield situation, from what I can gather in the fan base anyway. I think the general consensus is we're pretty much not too far away. The squad's looking very good, but we would still like that extra midfielder to give Ryan Gravenberch a bit of a breather. Have you anything to suggest that search is still ongoing for January, or any new names pop up?
I absolutely would not rule it out. People get asked, journalists get asked a lot in this period, do you think it's going to be a quiet window? I just think it would be foolish to say that. Liverpool have consistently shown, if opportunities present themselves, that they will jump at them in January. And if that opportunity, the clear area where they would like to find an opportunity is that midfield. They tried in the summer, couldn't get it. That's still a want. And we've seen with the way Slot uses the squad as well, that it's a kind of a need for them, because, those first choice 3 midfielders, then you've got an extra there. So Curtis Jones, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, they are being asked to get through an awful lot. And he clearly doesn't trust Endo to do too much behind them. He's clear kind of 5th choice. Morton, we haven't seen very much at all either. So I just think he needs an extra midfielder in there. So, like I say, if the right one pops up in the January window, one that they can get in that time, that a club is willing to sell and they are willing to pay for, and it's the right profile who will suit them for the next 5 years, they'll absolutely do it. So I think anyone who would rule that out at this stage is, I think that would be unwise to do that. So, yeah, hopefully someone does pop up, because I think it's an area that would really kind of finish the squad off. And then the only area you'd really be looking at as a weakness then is maybe they could do something at left back. But as I say, I think that's something that will wait till the summer. Midfield, I'd love to see in January.
I agree. Kirk's name has come up quite a bit as well recently on the left back. But yeah, for me, I think I don't want to see a repeat of us maybe falling away with fatigue in the latter part of the season, particularly in the central area. So that's why, again, we're all hopeful of that midfielder. But it is about availability, if you said, so I do appreciate that. David, we have come to an end, my friend, but as always, just want to ask you what you've got coming up this week on your channel and your Substack, and are you looking forward? Are you going down to St. Mary's?
No, I'm not down to St. Mary's, thankfully. I don't do all the away games these days, so I'm absolutely relieved that I don't have to go all that way, to be honest. So I'm not, but if people want to check out, and I've just published today, actually, on YouTube, kind of a bit of a review into those Kirkes links and whether, it's possible they could sign him now, or could he be a Robertson replacement? So that's worth checking out on YouTube if people want to find that. And obviously, as usual, loads on Substack, including that kind of examination of whether Liverpool should give Mohamed Salah the contract, what his numbers look like, what that situation, a bit more of an analysis of that. So people can check that out. Massively appreciate it.
Always appreciate your sincerity, David. Always appreciate your time. And I know we won't always agree on these things, but it's always good to talk them out as well. So I appreciate your understanding. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know in the comment section. Drop a like and, of course, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back soon. Much love. Bye-bye.